All right, here we are for the second part of tonight's assignment. And what we're doing is that we're going to skip over chapter 3. The reason why I skip over chapter 3 is I've been using this textbook very much since the first edition back in 1997. I've always liked these two authors. And it was only like a year or two ago that they threw in this new intercultural chapter. So I haven't really, uh, been acclimated to it too much. Plus, here at Bergen, we actually do teach an intercultural communication class. So I don't want to just go ahead and talk about it even briefly. So we're going to skip over chapter 3. And we're going to save chapter 4 for tomorrow. So I wanted to go into chapter 5. See, chapter 5 deals with a part of communication that when you ask people, they'll tell you they do this very well. In actuality, they're really not as good as they think they are. And that part of communication that they think they're good at but may not be as good as they think, that's what we call listening. Okay. Now, one of the reasons why is people don't realize is that in order to be an effective listener, you have to go through this process, and it's a process that needs to be completed in order for effective listening to be both successful and satisfactory. Now, the listening process has 5 steps. Now, the first step is called hearing. Now, there's a big misconception. People think hearing and listening are the same thing. But see, hearing is just simply a biological activity. Sound waves bouncing off your eardrums. That's it. That's what listening is. That's what hearing is. Hearing is simply a biological activity, whereas listening is a process. And in this case, it takes 5 steps. So the first step, hearing. The second step is attending. That's when the sound waves bounce off your eardrums, and you start to pay attention to whatever that is. Then there's understanding, trying to get a clear idea of what it is you're listening to, whether it's something that's outside or somebody who's talking to you on the phone. Okay? And they want to talk to you about something, and you start to get an idea of what exactly it is. But then after understanding comes responding, and you want to make sure you respond in a way that demonstrates that you have been listening to what this person is saying. And then the last and final step might be the most important step, and that is remembering. Okay? So you've got hearing, attending, understanding, responding, and then remembering. And you complete those 5 steps, and you should have no problem with the listening process. Now, in your textbooks, they do list a bunch of different ways that we aren't good at listening, what gets in the way of effective listening. And of course, one of the top things is noise, but also things like message overload. When there's just so many messages that we just can't keep up with each and every one of them and can't listen to everything that's been said to us. But what I want to do is I want to now get into some of the ways they say that you can go about helping your listening skills. And it's interesting because it seems like this is right in front of your face, and yet some people simply don't do this as often as they should. Now, one of the first things they say in helping to become an effective listener is make sure you ask questions. And of course, this is especially in the classroom because I know there's a lot of my colleagues who maybe you just don't understand what they're saying. They're mumbling, they talk too low, whatever it is. Okay? And you hesitate to ask questions. And of course, what's the biggest reason why you don't ask questions? Because you don't want to sound stupid. And of course, the old saying goes, the dumbest question is the one not asked. So make sure if you're ever confused, all right, remember when you get to that third step in the listening process, understanding, you want to make sure you get clarification, a full understanding, so that when you respond, you can definitely tell or indicate to the person who you're listening to that you are listening, that you can respond, and it shows, it demonstrates, yeah, see, I've been paying attention. Okay? And you want to make sure you get that clarification. And that's what asking questions will do. Also, paraphrasing. Repeating back what someone said in your own words. This can go a long way to helping you to clarify exactly what's being said to you. And give a good indication of maybe to the speaker, whether it's a professor, someone you're talking to face to face, maybe you need to change what you're saying, or maybe you need to clarify what you're saying, explain it a little bit better so I understand before I can give the best response. All right. But the third one they talk about is the one that I've always found the most intriguing. And that is simply 2 words. One of the best ways to help you to improve your effective listening skills is to take notes. Now, a lot of you are saying, well, Eccles, what's the big deal, man? I take notes in class all the time, you know. Yeah, of course you do. And I'm sure that if we were sitting in a face-to-face, as I do every semester, I'd go around the room, and there would be people with those 200-page binders, and you're filling them up, or somebody is rapping away on their laptop or on their tablet, taking notes throughout the entire classroom. And that's true. That's a good way to do it, because when you read back over those notes, you'll remember not only what I was saying, but you can actually remember where I was standing when I said it. But what's interesting to me is that people think that when it comes to effective listening, taking notes ends when you walk out of the classroom. Where in all walks of life, taking notes to help you to remember has been everywhere. Okay? For example, look at this. What is this? In 1981, the 3M Corporation invented what we call the Post-it note. Some of you call them sticky notes, okay? And that was the reason why it was invented, to help you to remember. So you can write something down after being told about it, and because you're writing it down and you're putting it some way, it'll help you to remember. Now, my wife has got this nice, like 22-inch computer screen here, all right? And on more than one occasion, she'll have a bunch of them surrounding her. I'll tell you what, if you're ever at Bergen, every one of the secretaries, almost every one of their computer screens at their desks has Post-it notes all around. Or you probably remember. Remember when you're about 15 years old and you're going to bed, and your mom says before you go to bed, honey, don't forget to do this tomorrow. And you're like, all right, Ma. So you wake up the next morning, you open up your bedroom door, and there's a Post-it note. Honey, don't forget to do this. Ma. So you go downstairs, you go to open up the refrigerator. What's on the refrigerator? Post-it note. Honey, don't forget to do this. Ma. You open up the refrigerator, go to grab the orange juice. What's on the orange juice carton? Honey, don't forget to do this. Post-it notes. Okay? Gives you an idea. Or let's say if you weren't in class this morning, but you're, say, at ShopRite, especially the one over in Rochelle Park, which is right down the street from the college. If you're walking around there, you're going to see a bunch of people walking around shopping, well, with their masks on. But what are they holding in their hands? They're holding shopping lists. Because when they were home and they were thinking about what they have to go get at ShopRite and they're looking around, if they don't write something down, they're going to go to ShopRite, come home, and they forgot about 5 or 6 items. Especially if, for example, and this has happened to me a couple of times, where I'm looking around and I'm going to ShopRite, I'm going to do a whole week's grocery shopping. I decide not to write everything down. I got it right up here, no problem. So I go to ShopRite, I'm in aisle 3. And sure enough, there's this guy who used to work with my dad. Hasn't seen my dad in 10 years. Hey, Mikey, how are you? How's your father? How's your father doing? How's everything doing? And he's just like, yeah, sure, good to see you. There's the reason why my father don't see you anymore, because you still smell. Hey, it's good to see you. Good to see you. So now that goes on for 10 minutes. Now I get to aisle 5. And I'm about to grab a jar of pickles, and some old lady next to me drops a jar of pickles on the floor. I got pickle juice all over my legs. All right? And then I get to aisle 8. And there's that lady who used to live down the street when I was growing up. Oh, hi, Michael. How's your mother doing? How's your grandmother? She was such a sweetheart. And it's like, yeah. And then you finally get to the checkout line, you get home, and you look in your grocery bags, and you forgot about 10 items because you remembered them when you left, but a lot of that noise came through at ShopRite, and that's why a big reason people will write down whatever it is they've got on their shopping list. Well, this now brings us to your assignment. Okay? You've got 2 assignments that are due at 7 p.m. on this Wednesday evening. One, of course, is from Chapter 2. And then you have this one. Because when it comes to taking notes, people don't realize that it could be helpful in a lot of different places. So I've created this scenario for you, and I want you to go ahead and apply that scenario. I want you to answer the questions I'm asking for. Now, here's the scenario. Let's say, and many of you still do, you still live at home because you're going to college. And let's say your parents are going away for the weekend. Maybe you're going down to the Borgata in Atlantic City to spend your inheritance. So you're going to be home by yourself. You got the whole house to yourself. Well, early the next morning after your parents left, your best friend calls you. And your best friend has just gone through one of those real traumatic experiences where either A, they got dumped by their boyfriend or girlfriend, got fired from their job, uh, got a horrible grade from a professor that's going to really screw up their GPA, or had a big blowout with their parents, and now they're looking to move out of their parents' house and they don't know where to go because they got no money. So you say to your friend, you know what, if you need someone to listen or to talk with, why don't you come over here? My parents are gone for the weekend. You can sit down at my parents' house, no problem. So your best friend comes over. You sit down at your mother's kitchen table, and now they began to talk. And of course, they're going to go on for a while. They're going to go into whole detail about their situation. Probably going to cry a little bit, get really emotional, but they're saying a lot. And in the listening process, not only for understanding, but you want to make sure you respond in a way that demonstrates you've been listening to everything they said. So you decide, as you look over to your right on your mother's kitchen table, there's the ShopRite sales circular for the week, and there's a pen. So you go ahead and you slide it over towards you, and in the blank margin, you start to write down 3 or 4 words that your friend is saying. Should your friend be upset or offended by what you're doing? That I would like you to explain in detail. And that's both of your assignments from Chapter 2 and Chapter 5. And don't forget, they are due by tonight at 7 p.m. All right, you guys take care, and we shall talk to you soon.